Nicholas was the last Tsar of the Russian Empire and succeeded his father in 1894. Nicholas and his wife, Alexandra, were coronated as ruler in 1896. As ruler, he instructed the building of the Trans-Serbian Railroad. He took charge of the military during World War I and left his wife and her advisor to internal social affairs. Years of discontent in police in Russia, which led to the Russian Revolution, and in 1918, Nicholas and his family were executed. It was under his authority that Russia aligned itself with Serbia that began a cascade towards war. With his defeat, Russia could no longer support the war and retracted. Kaiser Wilhelm was the German military leader and built up the German military to rival the British in 1900. The British then began to increase the number and the size of their ships, and other European powers followed their example. Armies also were enormously increased as nations began engaged in an armaments race. Wilhelm was quite obsessed with military matters and thus proved ineffective as the Kaiser of Germany. His dream of world power continued even after World War I, which shows the extent to which this particular ruler may have stirred up or prolonged the World War. Georges Clemenceau was the ruler of France during World War I. He supported the idea of war. In fact, he didn't believe in surrender, and the excessive pride would thus drive the war. His goal was to expose the inefficiencies of the French military, and thus a war was needed to do this. The sense of nationalism by the key leader would cause a giddiness for war that caused France to do so quickly respond to Russia's call for help after the assassination of the Archduke. Lloyd George was the Prime Minister during the war. He at first didn't feel inclined into hopping into the war, but after the Belgian neutrality was violated by German attack, he supported the war, and after he became the Prime Minister in 1916, he supported the war effort and governed it in such a way that England was somewhat successful. Woodrow Wilson was the President of the United States during all of World War I. His idea of war was that the United States should remain neutral and thus didn't partake in much action. Even after the Louisiana was sunk, which carried 124 Americans, the US remained neutral for 2 more years. In contributing to the war, it happened that the Louisiana was smuggling weaponry to Britain, which only inflamed the Germans. After the Russian Revolution, in which Russia became somewhat democratic, Wilson felt that in aiding Russia against Germany, that there would be no conflict in governmental type, saying the world must be safe for democracy. Vladimir Lenin was the man most responsible for the success of the Russian Revolution. His ideas aligned those of Karl Marx. He found the people of Russia in poverty and figured the best way to solve the problem was to submit Russia into communism. Though his success, Russia became the Soviet Union and the US felt more comfortable in joining them against Germany.